Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your wrong. Let's dive in. You think that you're just crossing your fingers. You think your employer decides your pay, right? You think you can't force a client to choose you. You get what you get if you don't throw a fit, right? We tell our toddlers that all the time. But unfortunately, that is the rule that you have been playing by. But that belief that I'm not the one calling the shots here is a decision. You made it, which means you can make a different one. This is the Uncensored Self. I am Ryan Gillen, and today we are talking about the power of decision and your identity. And this is such a fun and exciting conversation because whatever I'm currently working on in my life, I know that you guys are working on too. I just know energetically that that's the way that it works. So in June, I re-engaged with Stacy B, and Stacy B was my original mentor who introduced me to universal law, introduced me to the energy game and a lot of what I do today. I went through her certification. She's just one of my very favorite humans on the planet. And so what I'm about to walk you through is the exact heavy lifting that she and I did together in June. And that is the absolute power of making a decision. And that when it comes to conscious creation, intentional reality creation, the identity, the what I talk about is identity work and the free and rich mastermind, right, is all about a decision. So what does it mean to decide? What does it mean to make a decision? The literal definition of decide is to cut off, right? When you make a true decision, you cut yourself off from every other option. I think this is where ideas where people talk about like burning the boats and having no plan B comes from, I made a decision. I made a decision and I went with it. We don't think we have that power in our careers. We don't think we have that power in the clients we attract or the opportunities that find us, right? But when you decided to marry your spouse, right, you cut off every other option. You didn't need a 5-step process. You didn't map out the how. You just decided, I'm going to marry this person, right? The same thing with whatever career path you're on. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a realtor or a corporate executive, it started with a decision of this is the career I'm going to pursue. Everything you have created up to this point in your life is a reflection of the decisions you have made. And most of us have no fucking idea that we are the ones calling the shots. And it's so fun because I do this work and I swear every time I do this work, there's certain triggers and ideas that like will bubble back up. And I'm like, I thought I slayed this dragon and we're here. And decision is one of them, right? Because I very much thought I understood this through and through. But one of the things I realized is that when it came to clients and money and some other areas of my life that I didn't realize that I hadn't decided. I told myself I had made a decision, but I wasn't acting from that space, right? So let's talk about this in a way that it's probably going to relate to a lot of you, which is actually for me, rewriting my relationship with money and business, right? I know that I decide, if I'm going to go work out today. I decide if I'm going to take care of my body. I decide if I'm going to post a piece of content, right? There's some things that I do believe I make a decision about, but there's some things I didn't realize that I could decide. Therefore, I wasn't making the decision. So let's put this in a specific example. So if you, my friend, and so many of you have this identity, decided that you are a hard worker, right? And that you are willing to work as hard as possible to make money, then that is the decision that you have made with money. I have decided that I'm willing to work hard for money. I am no longer available for that decision, but it was a decision that I made when I was very young. I wanted money so badly that I made the decision that I was willing to do whatever it took. I would do whatever they told me to do. It didn't matter how hard it was or how long it took or how much I hated it. I was willing to do it. And that was the decision that I made about money when I started my career in my 20s. And that has been reflected to me for quite literally decades. But here is what my work with Stacy really brought to life and what I want to share with you in this episode today. I could have just as easily decided that money is obsessed with me, that I get paid to exist. Money gets to be easy. Clients love me. They love paying me. I always have more than enough money. Money flows to me all of the time. Money, it just cannot get enough of me, right? Because this podcast specifically is for women in business, this is where the disconnect happens, right? We think that we're crossing our fingers, right? That decision I made about hard work, thought that like, okay, I just got to figure out what the hard work is to do to get it. I've shared this with you guys on the show before. I believe that I can be, do, and have whatever I want. I just always thought there was a price to pay. This was part of my business beliefs I no longer subscribe to series where I talked about like hard work and suffering and sacrifice because I had made a decision that I was willing to do whatever it took and work as hard as it was to make money. And so that was continued to be my reality reality with money. We think it's outside of us, the job, right? Well, the job market only pays A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So that's all I can expect for this. That's a decision. I can't force clients to hire me, Ryan. I can't force them to pay my rates. That's a decision. The decision that I'm not the one calling the shots is a decision. And so if you made those old decisions, you have the power to make new ones. So I'm not telling you this to frustrate you. I'm telling you this so you realize, like, holy shit, somewhere along the way, I did choose this. I didn't realize I had a choice, right? I'm going to give you a very specific example of times I've done this in my life where I did it very consciously. So in 2018, I decided I was leaving my corporate job. Right. When I learned about online entrepreneurship, I'd say in 2017, 2018, I filed my LLC in the end of 2019. And then I found out that I was pregnant with Georgia in the fall of 2018. Right. And so I decided that, like, I'm not going back to work after I have this baby. She was due in June of 2019. And I just decided I'm not going back to work. It was a decision. My business guys, when I made this decision, had made maybe a couple of $100s, right? I had no proof. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no experience. I'd never run a business a day in my fucking life. But I operated from that decision every single day. Even when I woke up every day and I went to that job and I did not love that job at all, right? I literally just decided this is what I'm going to do. And sometimes people look at wealth and performance and business and all these different things. They call it luck. They call it opportunity. I'm sure one of you thinking is like, yeah, but you had a husband, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, my husband, God bless my ex-husband, was not making a lot of money at the time. I was the breadwinner in our relationship. When I made that decision, I was making around, I think, $140,000 a year. And my only goal was to replace that in my business before I had Georgia in June. I had no proof, idea, no pathway whatsoever. It was a decision I made. And what do you fucking know? I did it. I did it. I did it easily. Easily in a way that I mean that, like, the timing was great. It just unfolded. That is the power of decisions. But here is the thing that many of us do, right? We don't actually make decisions. We don't actually make decisions. We live by that fucking toddler rule of you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. And I think it's so funny that literally I brainstormed these notes and ideas a couple of days ago. And then Georgia said that to me last night before I recorded. I love the serendipity, right? But, like, stop fucking living like a toddler. You get what you get. You get the clients you get. Don't throw a fit. If we're promoting you, like, stop, right? Decision one, right? This is one of the main decisions that I have my clients make is, what do you actually want? What do you want in your life? And this frustrates a lot of people because many of them come from this place of, I just don't want what I have. So saying I want $1 million with nothing behind it isn't a desire, right? To just say, I want to build $1 million business. And again, I speak from experience on this one, guys. Like, just to say, I just want to make as much money as possible with no clear vision, no clear purpose, no clear decision. Just the $1 million will solve all of my problems. That's not a decision. That was a hope. It was a wish. Right now, what I say out loud early and often, and I have no physical proof of this, is that I run a $10 million business doing only things that I love. My business is not making $10 million yet, but I made a decision that that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And I have a very clear vision of what that business looks like, right? I have a list of what I'm available for and what I'm not available for. It is a decision that I made, and I wake up every single day in service of that decision. So for you, what is the actual vision? This is step one of the creation process I teach in Free and Rich, right? What gets you out of bed? It's not exciting to get out of bed to just say, I just don't want to be stressed or overwhelmed, right? That's not a vision. That's certainly not a decision. It's a fucking wish. So the first thing I have my clients do is get clear on their vision. So that's the first thing I'm going to have you do. But the second thing I want you to do, and I have all of my clients do, is we start setting the standard, right? So instead of just, I want a business that makes money, which is what many of us think, or I want a career that pays me well, or I just want to be happy, or I just want to enjoy my work, like, want. Stop it, right? You have to set the standards. You have to decide, I'm building a business and these are the type of clients I am available for. Right? Or I want a new opportunity and these are the type of jobs that I am available for. You have to decide what you want. If you just want clients, and so many of you are experiencing this, I know I did for a very long time, right? You've got clients and you hate them, right? They're jerks and they don't treat you well and they argue with you over how much they pay you and they're flaky and they don't show up for their calls and they're so overwhelming and they're not educated and like, no judgment, right? But when you make the decision that I'm only available for clients who meet these particular standards, that is a decision that you make, right? And It is one that you have to honor. And I will tell you, it's not easy. I coach clients through this every single day. We set energetic standards around clients, and then an opportunity shows up and it doesn't meet the energetic standards, right? This is what a lot of people do. I made a decision about the kind of clients I want to work with, but this client over here doesn't meet these standards, but it's money and I could take it. And it might be okay. I mean, it's not that bad. I have the time, I have the availability, and you go back on your decision, right? You go back on your decision. That's not a decision, right? If you made a decision and you backtrack and you make a decision and you backtrack, it's not a decision. It's just you saying, wouldn't it be nice if, but I don't have a choice, right? People invite me, guys, to things constantly. I get invited to networking opportunities. I just recently got invited to speak at a summit. I got invited to be part of this women's group. And I know it's just, I made a decision. I only do things that I love. If I'm not excited about this thing, I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested. Right? Recently, somebody offered me a marketing project. Ryan, do you want to get back into sales and marketing? No, right? I decide ahead of time what I'm available for, and then I honor that decision. That is a decision. I want to make $1 million and I'm only available for these type of clients, but I'll take these projects just in case as I want the money is not a decision. It's you constantly going in circles. So many women will use the words like, I'm stuck, I'm overwhelmed. Well, that's why. You say you want something and then you do the exact fucking opposite. You're not making a decision and owning your decision. You're wishing that it works out the way that you want it to, but you'll take what you get, right? I'll take what I get and I won't throw a fit. Right back to the fucking toddler, right? So how do we reverse engineer this? How do we reverse engineer honoring the decision? This is the identity work piece, right? So this is how identity work and free and rich, the mastermind, work together, in case you're wondering, right? So for me, when I decided I'm running a $10 million business doing only things that I love, I instantly go into, who is that woman? How does that woman think? How does she feel? How does she act? And I think, feel, and act like that woman as possible. And I want to be very clear. I want to give you the what's the word I'm looking for? The asterisk that goes along with this. I am not proposing that you go out and make irresponsible financial decisions because you decided that you're a millionaire. That is not what this is about. It is the energy. It is the identity. You will have to operate in the identity long before the results show up, right? When I decided I was going to quit my job, I had to act like a business owner who was running a successful business while pregnant, while leading a sales team, right? I had to own that identity first, right? Currently building a $10 million business, I am owning that identity every single day and I'm fine tuning it every day. But it is in the power of the decisions that I make that whether or not it's going to happen isn't off the table. I already decided. I decided what I'm doing and now I'm just showing up in service of that. So now I have to think like that. So if I know that I'm growing a $10 million business, I don't think, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Am I going to sign enough clients? Can I do this? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Those thoughts don't exist in the identity of $10 million Ryan. Right? She doesn't think, oh, maybe I'm not smart enough or maybe I'm not successful enough, right? She doesn't think, oh my God, this is going to be so hard because I'm only doing things that I love. So if I'm only doing things that I love, I would never think this is so hard. Those things are misaligned. This is identity work, right? If you are thinking thoughts aligned with your current identity that thinks that you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, because you haven't made a decision and owned that decision, you're not in the identity of that person, and it will always be harder to create results, right? So if you are stuck in anxiety, if you're stuck in doubt, wondering where the opportunity is going to come from, you are not in the identity of the person who has it, period, end of. That's why it starts with identity. I say this all of the time. You create your results through your identity and your energy, right? And it all starts with the decision. I have decided to be the woman who is only doing things that I love in my business, and I set all of my standards. And like I said, this is something I go through with all of my clients. What are your standards? What are your standards? And then you have to own those standards. And it's not easy work. When somebody knocks on your door with a check in their hand and you've already made a decision, that's not an easy move to make. But if I knew without a shadow of a doubt I was going to get what I wanted and I'd already decided, I wouldn't even entertain that because I would all be running a $10 million business. I would not be entertaining those types of opportunities, right? So many of us, especially myself included, when I started doing this, we don't decide. We just wake up in the morning, we tackle the to-do list, and we pray for a payoff at the end. I hope that this works out the way that I want it to. And I hate to say this, but that's why you feel unhappy, unfulfilled, and you keep attracting shitty clients, shitty opportunity, and shitty things because you either haven't made a decision or you haven't set the standards and stuck to it, right? So once you decide, this is important, it is your responsibility to operate from that space and honor it. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that your brain isn't going to argue with you every step of the way. How many times have I said this on your show? Your brain's job is to keep you safe. So when you make powerful decisions and you move in that, the voice in your head is going to get loud. It's going to get loud. That is normal. But you still have to honor the decision. You still have to honor the decision. Every single time you say yes when you want to say no, you make a new decision. So if I said I'm only available for these types of opportunities, but I said yes to this opportunity that's not this type of opportunity, I just made a new decision. Then I'm okay with whatever I get. Right? You are choosing to abandon your vision. And I know that feels aggressive. It feels a little aggressive as I say it, but somebody has to say it to you. When you continue to do things you do not want to do, when you only do things because you might get a nice paycheck, or you only do things because it'll make somebody else happy, or you only do things because why not? And I'm bored. You're abandoning your vision, and you're deciding in that moment that I am the identity. I am the person who's willing to do things I hate because I'm desperate and life happens to me. Like I said, no, that's dramatic and it's going to trigger somebody, but it is the truth, right? It is the truth. When I am the woman who is running the business that I want, I would not even entertain these things. That's how we change our identity. We think from that space. We feel from that space, right? Again, I am somebody who is very anti-stress and overwhelming chaos. So I can tell you that I don't want a chaotic life. But if I constantly get caught up in chaotic thoughts and I constantly feel stressed and overwhelmed and anxious, I don't feel like the version of me who is unavailable for chaos. I am in chaos. I am not owning the identity. That's why I say it starts with identity and really intentionally crafting who is this woman. And like I said, you're going to be met with challenges as you grow and as new things face you. They're like, oh shit, I don't think I've made this decision yet. And what I teach all of my clients is we go to the identity of the woman who's your dream life, right? Lately, I've been calling her the free and rich woman, and I really fucking love that. If I'm operating from that identity, how do I approach this? What decision do I make? Because I've already made a whole lot of decisions, but what's so fucking cool about this work is that when you do this, life actually gets easier because the decisions that the current version of you choose on right now, well, I don't know, is this right? Is this wrong? Should I? Shouldn't I? All of that comes from the fact that you haven't decided who the fuck you are. The reason you are hemming and hawing over the decisions that you need to make right now is because you have not decided who you are and what you are available for. You are operating from an identity that says, I'll take whatever the fuck I can get. Right? But when you decide this is who I am and this is what I want and this is how I show up in the world, you now have a very clear, is this a yes or a no? Is this aligned? If I was currently living that life, what would I do? That is the power of making a decision. You cut off. I'm unavailable for anything else. So I want you to ask yourself, right? Which camp are you in? Are you in camp A, right? Where you haven't made any decisions, right? You're like, I haven't decided. I just don't want to be here. I think this is very common for high achievers. Like, I don't have a vision, Ryan, just not this, right? You're just stressed out, spinning plates, saying, I hate it here, and feeling like every day is fucking Groundhog Day. So your job here is to decide what you fucking want, create a vision, right? Or are you in the second camp, which says you've made a decision, but you don't honor those decisions? You say, I'm going to do this way, but then you still say yes to the shitty project or the shitty client, the dinner with people you don't like, right? And when you really start looking at this work very intentionally, at least what I find, what so many of my clients find is that so many of the things that you are doing are not at all aligned with the woman you say you want to become. But because you haven't made the decision, you haven't intentionally crafted the identity, you're not intentionally practicing the thoughts, you don't know how to make decisions. And so you just default to the old programming because your brain's job is to make it as easy as possible. That is why I am obsessed with the work that I do. I'm obsessed with our identity practice. So my identity practice, I'm going to make sure that it's linked in the show notes for you. It's something you can download. It's totally free, where I start practicing the thoughts of the version of me running a $10 million business. As I said, current state, my P&L does not show that, but I practice thinking like her every single fucking day for a minimum of 10 minutes. I spend 10 minutes thinking on purpose as the version of me running a $10 million business, doing only things that I love, thinking about how do I make decisions? How do I move through the world? What kind of marketing am I doing? What kind of clients am I working with? How am I spending my days? It is so intentional at this point in the game that I know exactly how to make decisions in my life, right? And am I saying I'm perfect? Gosh, no, guys, I would never. That's why I told you I went back and I re-engaged Stacy because there was just some shit in my life that I was like, I'm fucking tired of this. And she was like, all right, let's go back, to the OG days and really talk about decision, the power of your decisions. You're making decisions and then you're negating them. And I was like, holy fucking bananas, I am. So I'm not perfect at this, but I will tell you that the more that you do this work and the more that you practice this, the more confident you will become, the more comfortable you will become, and the clearer it will be. And that's why I say life gets easier. When you know exactly your criteria for making decisions, you have so much more mental capacity and emotional capacity because you're not constantly stressing yourself out over shit that you already decided. You, my friend, are the creator of your reality. I say that as literally as I possibly can. Your decisions in your life are the final say. So you either need to start making them or start honoring the ones that you've already made. Let's go. I'm excited. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.